Jake Mason sat in the locker room beneath the Denver arena, wrapping tape around his wrists. The crowd's roar pulsed through the concrete like a distant drum. At 29, he was a name people cheered for, a pro wrestler with 32 wins, a few belts, and a reputation for being relentless in the ring. His body was sculpted, his jawline sharp, his buzz cut a statement. But inside, Jake lived split in half. No one in the crowd knew he was bisexual. Not the announcers, not the teammates who joked in the locker room, certainly not Vince, his coach. In their world, gay was still a punchline, something said with a smirk between protein shakes and taped knuckles. Jake had dated women, and he'd loved a man once, but he kept that side hidden. The ring was his stage. His victories were loud, but his truth stayed silent. Tonight was a title shot. The lights would be hotter, the fans louder. Vince's voice, as usual, came sharp from behind. Make them respect you, like a real man. Jake flinched, not because of the pressure, but because that phrase always hit too close. He'd been hearing it since he was just breaking into the sport. Don't be soft. That was the rule. Be tough. Be hard. Be someone they couldn't question. He remembered Chris 2 years ago. They'd stayed up late watching movies, laughing in ways Jake hadn't with anyone else. No labels. It had ended quietly, like it never happened, because Jake couldn't risk it. Not in this world. Not under these lights. He glanced at the mirror across the locker room. What he saw staring back wasn't Jake, it was Mason the Mauler, a character, a mask. The fans knew that guy. Vince coached that guy. But Jake, he wasn't sure who that was anymore. He grew up in Boise. His dad was a wrestling coach. Tough it out, son, was the closest thing to affection. His mom died young. Jake learned strength early, but never softness. In high school, he'd crushed on girls, and once, a boy. But he buried that. College wrestling turned into a pro contract. Denver became home. The lights were big, the pressure bigger. And in 5 years, he never once said out loud who he really was. The ring had rules, no softness, no truth, no space for a guy like Jake, bisexual, unsure, human. So he played tough, stayed silent, 32 wins, no breath, no room to be himself. Just punch, pin, smile for the cameras, go home alone. As he stepped into the tunnel, the roar hit him like a wave. The crowd chanted, "Mason, Mason," and the announcers hyped up his entrance. His opponent, a veteran bruiser, waited in the ring with a scowl. Vince barked last-minute advice, but Jake didn't hear it. He just kept thinking, this is who they cheer for. Not me, just this version of me. The one I built to survive. The bell rang. Jake fought. His moves were sharp, his body trained, but his heart felt far away. Each punch landed, but nothing moved inside him. No pride, no fire, just habit. He fought for wins, but never for himself, not yet. One punch can shake an arena, but one truth spoken out loud can save a life. This is the story of Jake Mason, a fighter who came out and became a hero to a boy he never met. Subscribe for more stories. Jake sat under studio lights in Denver, sweat still drying from his latest match. The host grinned across from him, the crowd buzzing from his win another brutal submission, another belt slung over his shoulder. At 29, Jake Mason was a star. 33 wins, a reputation that echoed in every arena. But behind the applause, he was still hiding. His bisexuality was a truth buried under 5 years of slurs, locker room laughs, and silence. The host leaned forward, mic close. "Big win, Jake. What's next? Got a girl waiting out there?" The audience laughed, expecting swagger. Jake's throat tightened. Chris's face flashed in his mind, 2 years gone, but never forgotten. A man he had loved quietly, a relationship without labels, a part of himself no one ever saw. He could have laughed it off, dodged it, played the role, but something in him cracked. "I'm bisexual," he said. His voice didn't shake. "I loved a man once." Silence, the kind that presses against your skin. The audience froze. Someone coughed. The host blinked, caught off guard. "Well, that's bold," he stammered before cutting to commercial. The moment was over, but it was also just beginning. Backstage, Jake sat alone. His coach Vince was gone. No one clapped him on the back. His phone buzzed endlessly. The clip was already viral. He had come out, not planned, not rehearsed, just out. And it came at a price. The next day, the text stopped. One of his sponsors, an energy drink brand, sent a cold email. Contract paused. No explanation, just silence. At the gym, teammates avoided his eyes. No nods, no jokes, just grunts and distance. Vince called once, left a message. You're being too sensitive. No one called him champ. They called him soft. Or worse, he lost his next 2 matches. For the first time in 5 years, he walked out to boos instead of cheers. Someone held a sign that read, Soft Jake. Behind him, the media piled on. Mason loses edge after coming out. He wasn't seen as brave, just broken. Alone in his apartment, Jake stared at the belt on the couch. It didn't shine the same way. He opened an old message from Chris, unsent but saved. Be you, the ring had always been his escape, but now it felt like a trap. His truth was out. His career was unraveling. Fans were divided. Some called him brave. Others called him done. He turned off his phone, shut out the noise. But inside, the ache remained. He walked into the gym one afternoon. The clank of weights echoed in the silence. No one looked up. Vince didn't show. A teammate passed by, said nothing. He sparred with a rookie. His jab was slow, his timing off. The rookie didn't call him Mason, just him. Jake was no longer the man they respected, just the guy who said the wrong thing on TV. He sat alone on the bench afterward, dripping sweat, ribs sore, mind spinning. The silence was louder than the crowd had ever been. Chris's laughter came back in waves. So did the memory of that love. It had been real, not a show, not weak, just real. The crowd saw him as soft. Vince saw him as lost. His teammates turned their backs. But Jake knew what he had done. He had told the truth. And now he was paying for it. 2 matches down, no sponsors, no team, no voice cheering his name. But even as he sat in that gym hurt, tired and alone, he wasn't broken. He was still Jake, still by, still here, maybe not a champ, but still standing. Jake sat on the locker room bench in Denver, pressing ice to his swollen knuckles. The crowd's boos still echoed in his ears. He had just been pinned in the 3rd round, his 2nd consecutive loss. There were no cheers, no chants, just cardboard signs raised high that read, Soft Jake, like daggers aimed at his chest. At 29, with 33 career wins behind him, Jake Mason was unraveling. Ever since he came out as bisexual during that interview, just a few raw, honest words spoken without rehearsal, everything had collapsed. His sponsors quietly pulled out. Teammates who once called him champ now avoided eye contact. Vince, his longtime coach, had left a short message. You're being too sensitive. The gym had turned cold. The championship belt sat at home gathering dust. His truth was out, and the cost was heavier than he had ever imagined. That night, Jake walked back to a cheap motel on the edge of town. There was no gym, no welcome, just a bed, a door, and the kind of silence that weighs on your chest. His phone stayed off. The last messages he'd seen were split between hate and pity. Mason's finished. What a shame. People didn't see a fighter anymore, just a headline. He had fought for 5 years, battled for respect, fame, something solid. And now all he wanted was to disappear. Freedom had come with a price tag, and he wasn't sure he could afford it. He dragged his boots across the pavement, ready to walk away from wrestling, from the ring, maybe even from the person he was trying to become. He reached his door. That's when he saw it. A plain, white envelope on the floor. No stamp, no return address. Just his name, written in a shaky hand. Inside was a piece of lined notebook paper. Blue ink, uneven handwriting. A message from someone much younger and braver in their own way. Dear Jake, I'm 12. The other kids at school call me weird because I draw princesses instead of cars. I saw you on TV. When you said you loved a man and still wrestled, I cried. I didn't know someone like me could be strong. Now I do. At the bottom was a hand-drawn sketch. Jake, fists raised, standing strong beneath a soft arching rainbow. Jake held the letter with both hands. His throat tightened. He couldn't remember the last time he cried, Not after tough matches, not when Chris walked away, not when the world turned its back on him. But this broke him open. He sat down on the edge of the bed, still in his ring gear, the room dim and silent. The letter lay in his lap like something sacred. The boy didn't know about his losses. He didn't care about belts or brands. He just needed someone, anyone, to prove that strength could look like softness too. That honesty wasn't a weakness. That being different didn't mean being alone. The letter didn't fix everything. The sponsors were still gone. The booze wouldn't stop overnight. But it reminded Jake of something deeper than applause. He had made a difference. Not for the cameras, not for the industry, but for one kid, one voice, one scared 12-year-old who now saw a future he didn't see before. Jake didn't fold the letter and hide it. He placed it gently on the table by the bed, open, like a flame burning in the dark. And the next morning, as the Denver sky turned pale, he laced up his boots again. Not for a title, not for redemption, but for that boy, for that voice, for something bigger than the ring. Jake stood in the locker room of the Denver arena, lacing his boots tighter than usual. It had been a week since the letter from the boy, 12 years old. No name, just truth. That drawing of a wrestler under a soft rainbow stayed folded in his gym bag, its edges already worn. He hadn't gone back into the ring since his last loss. No sponsors, no coach, no team, just him. At 29, Jake Mason wasn't stepping in to fight for rankings or redemption. He was going back for a kid who saw something in him that Jake had nearly lost. Strength, not the kind that wins belts, but the kind that lives through silence, through rejection, through standing alone. He tied a small rainbow bandana around his wrist. Nothing loud, just a strip of color for the boy who drew it first. That was his signal, quiet but proud. He didn't need the fans' approval tonight. He didn't even need to win, he just needed to show up. The hallway to the ring was long and echoing. A few staff members nodded, some didn't. The crowd inside was already buzzing. There'd been talk online. Is Mason really coming back? Why bother? Is he gonna cry again? Jake didn't care. He felt something steadier than fear now. Purpose. His opponent was a bruiser, tall, smirking, built to intimidate. Jake had seen the type 100 times. But tonight, Jake wasn't there to impress the crowd or silence the doubters. He stepped between the ropes with his shoulders square and his heart open. For 5 years, the ring had been a mask. Tonight, it was a platform. The bell rang. The first hits were hard. His opponent didn't hold back. A jab caught Jake in the ribs. A knee grazed his chin. But Jake moved with clarity. He blocked, countered, breathed deep. Not for victory, for message, for meaning, for the boy who once cried over a late-night interview clip. The match was close. In the final round, Jake took a cut above his eye, blood trickling fast. But he stayed on his feet, circling, focused. When the last bell rang, the referee called it by points Jake's win. No knockout, no showboat, just enough. The arena was mixed. Some cheered, some still booed. But Jake raised his arm, sweat and blood and color on his wrist. Then he reached for the mic. His voice was low but steady. This one's not for the belt. It's not even for me. It's for someone out there who's scared. Someone like I was. If you think you're alone, you're not. He didn't wait for applause. He didn't need it. Some people clapped. Others stood in silence. But Jake saw something in the crowd. One kid in the third row, maybe 12, holding a sign with a hand-drawn rainbow. Back in the locker room, Jake peeled off the tape, the bandana stained red, his body aching. But his mind was still. He pulled a drawing from his bag, the sketch from the letter, and looked at it again. He didn't know the kid's name, but he knew his face. Every time Jake had felt invisible, unheard, pushed aside, that kid had felt it too. Jake had fought for years to be accepted. Then he thought he needed to disappear to be safe. But now he saw something else entirely. He didn't need to win over the world. He just needed to light a path. 2 months had passed since Jake returned to the ring. He now sat alone in a quiet Denver diner, sipping coffee, his wrist still bearing a faint mark where the rainbow bandana had once been tied. The footage of his last match of him raising the mic and saying, "You're not alone," had spread again, but this time with a different kind of energy. softer, warmer. Some fans returned, not all. That didn't matter anymore. Jake, 29, bisexual, no longer hiding. No more sponsors, no more image, just himself. The championship belt sat at home, more of a keepsake than a prize. What mattered most now lay in his pocket, a folded piece of notebook paper worn at the edges, the drawing of him with a rainbow behind, and the words from a nameless 12-year-old who once wrote, "I didn't know someone like me could be strong." One morning he got a call from a youth camp in Wyoming. They ran programs for kids who didn't fit into the boxes others had drawn for them. Sports, art, everything in between. "Would you come talk to the kids?" they asked. No press, no cameras, just a room full of young lives looking for someone who understood. Jake drove out. The plains stretched wide and quiet, the summer air hot but still. He brought the letter with him. When he arrived, the camp buzzed with laughter and sneakers on gravel. Kids played, coaches waved. He wasn't announced as a champion, just as Jake. Inside the camp gym, kids sat cross-legged on the floor watching him curiously. Jake stood in front of them and cleared his throat. "I used to fight to be someone I wasn't," he said. "I hid for 5 years, won fights, got cheers, but I wasn't winning anything real. I came out and I lost more than I expected. But then a kid sent me this." He held up the letter, careful not to let it shake. "This drawing, this note, kept me in the ring. It reminded me I wasn't alone." The room fell silent. Then slowly a boy in the back stood up, thin, nervous, holding a notebook. "That's mine," he said softly. Jake froze. The boy walked forward, notebook clutched to his chest. "I'm Rory. I wrote that letter. I draw princesses. I got made fun of. I was gonna stop. But then I saw you on TV. You were like me. You weren't afraid. So I kept going." Jake knelt down. His voice broke. "Rory, you didn't just keep me going. You gave me a reason to come back." The other kids watched as Jake opened Rory's notebook, flipping past sketch after sketch, girls in gowns, crowns, color bursting off the pages. No shame, just joy. Rory whispered, "That night when you won and wore the bandana, I didn't feel weird anymore. I felt seen." Jake pulled him into a hug, tight, real. And this time he didn't fight the tears. Back in Denver, a photo began circulating. Jake and Rory, arms around each other. Rory's sketchbook open. Jake's bandana still tied around his wrist. The caption was Jake's words, "Never underestimate what one story can do to save another." He didn't care how far it spread. He cared that Rory was smiling. The belt stayed on the shelf. But Rory's drawing? Jake framed it, hung it above his bed. That was the real victory. Jake knew now that he had fought for years chasing applause. But the moment that saved him wasn't a win. It was a letter. A boy. A voice that said, "You matter to me." Jake wasn't fighting for crowds anymore. He was fighting for light, for space, for the quiet ones drawing princesses in the back row. For kids like Rory, for the boy he used to be. He stepped into the ring alone, but he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. Jake fought alone, but not just for himself. If this story touched you, share it. Someone out there needs to hear. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories that heal.